Oh God. Anyway. uh, can you guys still see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Oh God. Okay, so you can see the whole slide now, right?
Yes.
Right. I just realized I've not been recording. So I don't know how people that are not on this call now, I don't know how they are going to manage, but yeah, they'll get like half cuts. Right. What was it I was even saying? Okay, so you want to be broad enough so that more ideas can come in and you don't block out, important ideas. But you don't want to be too broad, so that anything becomes an answer, right? Yeah, you don't want to be too broad that you start talking of, things that don't even relate to the solution. So you still want to keep your ideas focused on the particular solutions you're trying to solve, right? So broad enough to say how do we contact the customer, but not too broad to say things like how does the customer know we exist. Basically is going to deviate from the particular problem you're trying to solve. And then you also want to make multiple drafts, right? So the first idea that comes to your head is normally the bad one. Is the obvious one, is the one that everybody is doing. So you want to make multiple drafts, and we're going to talk about how to do that. Come up with multiple different ideas, and then start looking at characteristics and what you can copy from the other ones, and try to come up with the one that best suits your problem. Then of course you want to be creative. How my tweets are meant to be imaginative and fun, so you want to be very creative with it. And then you want to write as many how my tweets as you can. As long as the how my tweet is directed at solving that problem, there is no stupid how my tweet. There is no smart or bad how my tweet. You ask any how my tweets that will get the problem solved, right? Yeah, so the idea is that as long as you're focused on the problem, as long as the how my tweet question you're asking is one that is targeted at solving that problem, you need to write as many as you can, target as many processes as you can, in order to get to the problem. Now, another a way of coming up with a lot of different ideas is called the crazy eights, right? So crazy eights allows you to sketch out basically different multiple ideas, or multiple ways the problem can be solved. So the way you do that is it's actually done in a group. So in our own case, for instance, the problem we solved, we involved people in product management, sorry, people in the pharmacy operations team, and we also had people in the engineering team, and everyone came together because the idea is that these are people that have different backgrounds, so they can see the problem from different places, and that kind of makes it easier for us to get like a problem that is more practical, because all these people kind of, some things, for instance, the customer, the CS people, the customer service people may think is a great idea. At the end of the day, the engineering people will see how it can be a better idea, right? So that's kind of why you need, to be a diverse team. So you start with a large sheet of paper, and then you fold it. Basically, the idea is for you to have 8 compartments, right? And then you take a drawing instrument, it can be a pen, it can be a pencil, and then you set your timer, right? You set a 1-minute timer, and within that 1 minute, you are supposed to draw one idea. You have 1 minute to sketch an idea. So you kind of put your timer in 8 minutes, and then you break it down into 1 minute laps, right? So that when after every 1 minute, it goes into another minute, goes into another minute, and this happens eight times, right? So that in 1 minute, you're supposed to draw your idea for one idea. And then after 1 minute, you're supposed to jump to the other idea. The idea is for you to be thinking fast, not to be focusing so much on the details of your idea. You are not supposed to focus so much on how it is going to work. The idea is for you to just bring out all the nonsense in your head and put it on paper. You know, if you are going to say, for instance, in order for us to get healthcare, we need to take man to the moon, put it there. You know, it doesn't matter. The quality doesn't matter. What matters at this point is the quantity of ideas, not the quality of ideas, not how good the ideas are, just the fact that they are ideas and they are focused at solving the problem. But they are not, you're not thinking of how it's going to work. You're not thinking of if it's a good idea. You're not thinking of if it's a feasible idea. You're not thinking of how much it costs. The point is that it's just an idea, is a brain fart. It's just coming out from your brain and going straight to the paper. That's why it needs to be done quickly so that you don't think about it. Just blot it out, blot it out there. And then you have to let your ideas flow, right? Think of when you are in primary school. Now you're not an adult, right? You are trying to be a child. You're not trying to do, things that are realistic, right? Because a lot of your creativity died as you grew up, because as you grew up, you start thinking of gravity, that you can actually fall and hurt yourself. You start thinking of, costs of doing things. You start thinking of repercussions. All these things are basically things that minimize and destroy your creativity. You start thinking of other people judging you, whether you're stupid or smart. You start thinking of all of the world problems. And because of that, ideas are not coming out of your head. So at the point here, what you're supposed to do at this point is forget everything. You are back to being a child again. And the idea is for you to just blot out any idea that comes out of your head. Whether it's a good idea, don't judge it, just blot it out and put it on paper. Right. In order to do this, sometimes you may need to do a creative warm-up exercise. You may need to, there are some warm-up activities or warm-up games that you can do in order to, help you be more creative, in order to free up your mind. I think some people start with playing some games, like that. There are these games, I've forgotten what it's called, that makes you draw out ideas and all of that. You can start with that kind of warm-up exercise. And then, of course, you have to make sure that the problem you're trying to solve is well defined. So you know who your customer is, you've studied the problem, you've done your research on the problem, you know exactly what part of the problem that you want to attack. And because that is going to form the context, of whatever it is that you're trying to get ideas from. And then, of course, as I said before, you don't judge your ideas. So the idea here is to create a lot of ideas, not creating perfect ones, not even creating good ones, just creating a lot of ideas. Of course, you also don't judge other people's ideas, right? At this point, we are not judging anybody's ideas. So if somebody comes up with an idea, any idea is a good idea, right? So you have to keep an open mind as people are presenting their own sketches. Right. As I said before, you have to keep a diverse group. So diversity here in terms of professional diversity. So in terms of maybe somebody from design team, another person from customer care, another person from basically people that have different backgrounds. Of course, it's important that, it's not just the men, there are also women, different genders, different age groups, because the way 15-year-olds think is not the way 20-year-olds think, is not the way 50-year-olds think, is not the way 80-year-olds think, right? So you want to have that diversity as well. You also want to have diversity in ability, if possible. So because the way people that are crippled, I don't know if I should use that word, people that have a mobile disability, let me put it that way, the way they see the world is not the way every other person sees the world, right? So if you are going, for instance, to go into a bank, if your legs and your arms are working, you don't even think of whether the place has stairs or not, or whether the stairs are accessible to people that that are using wheelchair, you don't think about that. You just go into the bank. But people that are using wheelchair, before they leave their house, they have to use their mind to go through all the places that they can use their wheelchair on. In that bank that you just walk into, they have to think of, if this bank has a step, how do I use my wheelchair to go up to their steps? So the way their mind works is not the way your own works, right? So the things that matter to them is not the things that matter to you. And, that's actually how it works for everybody. Even people that are blind as well, the way they navigate the world, the things that they think about in navigating the world is not the things we think about. So there are ideas that can come out of minds like that cannot come out of our own, because we navigate the world in a totally different way, right? So that's the importance of diversity. So you also have to create a comfortable environment for ideation, right? Not an environment that has a lot of problems, right? Make sure that the room, is looking good, it's relaxed, if possible. Some little music is playing on the background. And the workspace looks basically relaxed, right? So that everybody can, be able to think. And you don't be afraid of sketching. In fact, if you're trying to start this, you need to have like a bundle of paper, so that you're not even thinking of that you're wasting paper, right? Yeah, anything that just comes to your mind, you grab another paper and sketch it, right? So don't be as afraid of creating, don't be as afraid of, sketching. So the benefits of the Crazy 8 idea exercise is that it generates a lot of ideas, right, in a small period of time. So imagine now you're working with 5 people, and out of that 5 people, everybody generates 8 crazy ideas. Now, what you now have is 8 times 5, which is 40 crazy ideas. Now, in that 40 ideas, you may find that if you combine one to the other, it becomes a great idea that nobody has ever thought of, right? So that's the importance of, Crazy 8. That's how we, why it's very important. Of course, it also forces you to think outside the box. I've said before, you don't think in your comfort zone, you don't think in your safe zone. You think of things that are stupid to you, that would have been stupid to you normally, but because we are trying to create, all those things that you feel that are stupid goes on paper. And all of a sudden, you realize that your own stupid connects with another person's stupid and create something that is magnificent, right? So that's the idea and the importance of thinking outside the box for Crazy 8. Right. So I'm going to break you guys into groups. I hope I can still do that. Right. Okay. Okay, maybe I need to exit here first. I need to stop sharing. Yes. Right, we are back. Okay. Now I'm going to do an exercise. We are 18 in this room. So I'm going to break you guys into, or the room is automatically going to break you into 18 divided by 3 is what? Is 6, yeah? So I'm going to create 6 rooms. Sorry. I'm going to create 6 breakout rooms. So there are going to be like 2 or 3 people in that room. In 5, I'm going to put the timer to 5 minutes, right? And in 5 minutes, whatever group you find yourself in, I want you guys to come up with 50 ways you can use a paperclip. 50 ways you can use a paperclip. So you guys are going to be like 2 or 3 in a room. And that 2 or 3 in the room, everyone or the room is going to come out with 50 ways of using a paperclip. I hope the instruction is clear. So let's go ahead and do that. Right. So some rooms have 3 people, some rooms have only 2 people. It doesn't matter. I still want 50 from every room. So whichever room that God has put you in, to manage it like that. Okay. So let's go.
Hi guys. So are we supposed to just type it in the chat session or sorry, you guys, are we supposed to type it on the chat session or Your mic is muted.
All right.
I got locked out.
Can you guys hear me now?
Okay, yes. Oh,
Yes. How many
our
groups?
session is over.
Yes, it was 5 minutes. How many groups got up to 50 things you could do with the paperclip? How many people got up to 50?
Nobody was responding in my group, so I was just typing in the chat section.
Yeah. But did you get up to 50 though?
Only me, no, I got 11.
11. Okay, that's interesting. But the point is, I think I was going from group to group and I saw you guys doing exactly the things I said you shouldn't be doing, right? You people were explaining, right? A lot of people were like, oh, you put it on your clip, right? You know, when you tie it and the button is not good. Like you are doing a lot of explaining. You are trying to rationalize the answer. This is not the time to rationalize. Like if someone asks you to provide 50 ideas in 5 minutes, it's not for you to start rationalizing. So you will have to work independently. So everyone in the group best works independently. No explanation, nothing. So just write out your mind is focused on things to do with a paperclip. So it's not things to do with a burrito. It's not things to do with a car. It's things to do with a paperclip. As long as your mind is focused on that things to do with a paperclip, just let it flow, right? And write it down, write it down, write it down, write it down. Don't explain to anybody, right? It's best if you work independently, and then when you come together, so maybe you can give a target of one person gives. If you're in a group of three divided by 50, I don't know. My math is not that good. Maybe about 16 or so. I say 16. Let's say one person comes up with 20, different things. 5 minutes is enough for one person to come up with 20. 20 different ideas of things you can do with a paper clip. Not judging whether it's realistic, not judging whether it's feasible, not judging whether it makes sense, not judging if paperclip can do that thing, just flowing, right? That was the assignment. So let's try to do it again. Are you ready? Are you ready, guys? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's try again. So this time you are not having conversations of whether this is good or bad or ugly. You are not trying to explain. It's not the time for explanation. It's the time to think. It's a time to just not even think, Seth. It's a time to just blot out. Just facts. Let your brain shit on the paper. If you're going to write it down, I think it makes sense to write it down because you cannot memorize all the the ideas you have. So just write it down. Maybe one person writes like 20 ideas in 5 minutes. 5 minutes is more than enough time. So just blot it out. So let's try again. Okay, breakout rooms. Okay, let's go again. No. Sorry. Hello, welcome back. Welcome back. So how is it this time?
It flows more this time.
Yeah, more.
Yeah, we could get more numbers. We got more numbers.
So what do you think was different this time? Why do you think you are able to get more numbers now than before?
Because we're not
Everybody was just
reasoning.
dropping ideas. We're not really brainstorming.
Yeah. So now
More
you're not
concentration as
deliberating.
well. More concentration and pushing.
Yeah. So you're not deliberating, you're not judging, you're just letting the idea flow, and at this point, that is what you need, because you don't need to. So the ideation process goes something like this. It expands and then it contracts, right? So this phase is that expansion phase, that phase where you want as many ideas as possible. Then when you've gotten all those ideas, you now start contracting it to what is feasible, what is not feasible, what can work, what can our money buy, and all of that. But at this point, you are not thinking of feasibility, you're just thinking of generating as many ideas as possible. Right, so I think with that, we've come to the end of this class today, and I'm going to be sending in your assignments. Of course, the assignment is going to be based on, the brain session, or brainstorming session. So you're going to do that, the exercise you're going to do the how might we's, basically the ideation phase for your project. So you're going to do the how might we's, and then you're going to maybe get a couple of people, of course, your group people, for those for the lone wolves, right? You guys will do your thing, but the idea is that you're going to come up with a whole lot of ideas for how you are going to solve the problem, and yeah, that's going to be your assignment for your project this week. But I'm going to still send it to you more formally. So let's jump on to our next class, which is auto layout. Right. Is it this? Give me a second. Right. Okay, you guys can see my screen now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
as I said, you learned auto layout last week. Sorry, you learned layout last week. So this week you are going to learn auto layout, and by the end of this class, we would recreate. This is too complex to recreate in this class, but maybe in a subsequent class. But we'll recreate something like this, right? If you don't know what this is, this looks like a card. This is a UI card, right? A UI meaning user interface, card meaning card. So it's more like what apps like Instagram is made of, right? Apps like Instagram is made up of like hundreds of things like this. Now let me show you how things like this work in real life, right? So let me try to prototype it so you can see how it works. You can still see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Can you see the prototype thing loading?
Yes.
All right, great. All right, so this card, works somewhat like this. You can see, right? But this is like a prototype of the app itself. Is a prototype of the app itself, but you can see that this app is made up of cards. So this is one card, this is another card, this is a third card, this is a fourth card. They are all cards essentially. And if we go to this, I don't think this works. Maybe this will work. Okay, it doesn't work. Anyway, they are it's just like cards together, making a screen, that kind of works like this. So in this class, we're going to design a card. And in designing a card, the layout assignment that you're supposed to do, I've not really had time to, pay close attention to any of those things. Was basically about you designing a layout of your own. You can see in this layout, we have is vertical this way because you have one column, and then this is another big column. And then inside this column, you have like this row, and inside this row, you have like this row, and then this, and then this, and then this. And then even inside this one, you have this and this and this. Right, so this is basically layouts, right? But then if you, with the layouts you did last week, you manually had to put all of these things together. You had to manually put all of these things together. But in this week, we're going to learn how to do it automatically so that it is neat and there are no mistakes. You can see that everything here is on a line. Everything here is on a line. So it's not, I think someone sent in an assignment yesterday where one of their distance was poking out like that, or this one was poking in. So with this, it's not going to be even possible to do that, right? Because it's auto layout. So that's what we're going to learn. And make no mistakes, right? This, even though you're learning it early, this is something not a lot of designers, even UI designers, I don't know, you're not even talking of UX now, like do skillfully, right? And you see someone who has had like 3 years, 5 years experience in Figma, who still doesn't get this concept or doesn't get how to do it. So if you don't grasp it immediately, don't beat yourself up. It takes practice, right? So we're going to start. So in this class, I'm going to first introduce you to the basic concepts, and then we're going to try to create auto layout frames, then add content to them, then alignment and distribution, talk of resizing options, talk of padding and spacing in auto layout, then talk of designing a responsive design, to what responsive design means in auto layout. And then we're going to do a practical, which is going to be like designing one of these screens, like I think this one preferably. In time, later in this course, you'll be able to do tricks like this. You see how this this thing now is like a small card, but I can go on here and then I can literally just turn something on, and then it's going to become a full-blown, it's going to be a full-blown card, yeah. So it's going from a small card, to a big card in a matter of seconds. Anyway, but that's basically things that we're going to learn. But it's going to be in the future. We're not going to cover this in this class. Right, so let's start with basic concepts. Like we've already talked of layouts in the last class, so I'm not going to repeat because we don't really have time. Now, every auto layout will start with a frame. So that is a frame. In fact, not necessarily, but we're going to talk about it. So that's a frame. So in order to make this frame, okay, let's say you add a lot of things inside this frame now, like you add a rectangle. This is a rectangle. You put it inside the frame. You can see it's in the frame because if I pull it like this, you know, it disappears. So it's in the frame. You have an ellipse. You put it in the frame. All right, it's in the frame. And then let's say you have a text element. Oh, this is so small. Okay, let's make it 30. Okay. Let me paint it black because as soon as I put that thing to that frame now, it's just disappear. Yeah, let me put that into the frame. You can see here, like I would, if I want to arrange this thing, I have to start arranging it. Maybe if I want to put all of them in one line, I have to start arranging them one by one, putting them like this and like this, right? In order to arrange them. And then I have to decide, okay, so the spacing in between this one and this one, is it the same space? In fact, by the way, in order to do this, I click on this and then I hover over this one and then I press Option. I don't know what's Option. What will Option be in Windows keyboard? Shift, right? No, not Shift.
Yes.
Not Shift. It's not Shift. I think
Alternate.
Alternate, yes. So alternate. If I press alternate, I can see the distance between this and this is 75. Then if I click this one, I can see the distance between this and this is 75. The distance between this and this is 105, right? So now maybe I need to start, you know, pulling this one manually to kind of make it, to make it the same distance with this one. I have to start editing it manually, you know, to make it the same distance. And then I have to now figure out if they're on the same line, on the same horizontal line. Maybe I'll now start going to that horizontal thing to kind of make it horizontal. Anyway, we can see that there is an element of hassle in doing this, right? But let's go back to the initial way the frame is, and let's try to use auto layout to see how it works, right? So if I click on this frame and then I click on this my properties panel, I put plus on this auto layout, you can see automatically a layout has been taken, right? If you look at this side of it, you can see it automatically gave me a wrap. Because the reason it gave me a wrap is because it feels that the elements are not arranged in a straight form or any. Okay, let me show you something. So if I arrange this thing like this now, maybe this one is this and this one is maybe a little closer, like something that looks as if it's horizontal now, and then I press that auto layout again, you can see it's giving me horizontal layout, right? It's assuming that maybe I want everything to be on a horizontal layout, and then it's making, and automatically if you look at the space between here, you know, it's 73, and then the space between this one and this one is also 73 automatically, like it didn't have to do anything. And if you notice something else, it shrank, you know, the box itself shrank. The reason it does that is because it assumes that I want basically the borders to have the same. This is called the padding, right? This is called the padding. You can see this is where you find it. So this vertical padding is this, and this horizontal padding is this. So the horizontal padding on this now is 59 and is equal on the two places. The vertical padding is 80 and is also equal on the two places, right? So if I want to change this horizontal padding, I can change it, reduce it like this, or I can increase it like this. The same goes to the vertical pattern. If I want to increase it or reduce it, I can do it by changing the numbers inside this. So that is how to, you know, create an auto layout from a frame, right? So we had a frame from the beginning, and we just put an press the auto layout, and the frame automatically became a frame with an auto layout. so that if now we decide to have other things that we want to put in it, let me say we, create a rectangle and then we want to move it into the frame, automatically the rectangle will take a place, and the frame is going to restructure itself in order to fit that rectangle. You can see the spacing, this space between them is called the spacing, and it's all equal spacing, because that's how we designed it. Other things, so we've talked of padding and then alignment. Yeah. So this is what you call an alignment in auto layout. It's going to be a bit difficult to explain here because this particular frame is hugging the elements inside, right? So let's say the frame is not hugging the elements inside. Let's change it to fixed height. One way to change it is to click here and change it to fixed, right? Another way to do that would be to drag one of the ends that you want to be fixed. So if I drag this end, you can see this automatically becomes fixed. So it's still an auto layout, but what happens, and you can see these things here, that means that this is still the border, but it's just that this part is empty and this thing is aligned to the top and to the right. In fact, you can see that if I drag this one like this as well, you can see that these elements inside are aligned. They're aligned to the top left corner of this frame. So I can align it to the top, to the center. I can align it to the right. I can align it, you can see on the properties panel, to the middle here, to the bottom, to the middle bottom, to the left bottom, and I can align it to the center. Anywhere I want to align it. So this is what alignment is in auto layout. Right. Then converting existing frames. Okay, so we have a frame and we've converted it to auto layout. So you see how that happens. Then converting rectangles to auto layouts. So Figma does this thing where this is a rectangle, right? Let's say I put a text inside this rectangle now. Let's say let me color it black, because once I put it in that rectangle now, I will not be able to see it. So let me put this black inside this rectangle. This is not a frame. And the reason, okay, let me expand, increase the size of the letter first so that you can agree with me that it's not a frame. So you know that this is a rectangle, it's not a frame, it's a rectangle. And how I know it's a rectangle and not a frame is that when I drag this thing out here, it's not a frame, it's a rectangle. You can see that. So it's like a rectangle. I'm putting a text on top of a rectangle, right? Now, let's do something else. Let me try something else. I've really never tried this before, honestly. I'm just doing it for the first time. Let me see if it actually works that way. So let me put this one also, this smaller rectangle in here, right? Now, I'm going to select all of this, and then I'm going to press auto layout. Boom. You see, automatically, this rectangle becomes a frame because you cannot auto layout a rectangle, So this rectangle becomes a frame. And I don't know if you understand what this means, right? It's not that, okay, maybe let me do another demonstration to show you exactly why this thing is a bit mind-blowing. So here is another thing. Let me put this text outside, put this thing outside, and then let me select everything like this, and then let me press this auto layout. Boom. So you see what happens. By the way, use wrap because it's not horizontal, it's not vertical. If I undo that, let me undo to make it maybe horizontal layouts. Let me do pull this one here, and then pull this here, and then select all of them, and then press auto layout. You can see, right? So inside this auto layout, inside this frame now this is a bigger frame. You have a rectangle, you have a text, and then you have a smaller rectangle, right? But when I put the text inside, sorry, when I put the text and the rectangle inside the bigger rectangle, the Figma automatically understood what I was trying to do, and then it converted the bigger rectangle into a frame. So that rectangle doesn't exist now. That rectangle has become a frame. And if you look here, you can see that this is a frame. There is only Brian and the smaller rectangle. The bigger rectangle is no longer existent. Whereas if I had done it the other way, if I had brought this ones outside, and done an auto layout, you would have seen that this frame will contain a big rectangle, the text, and the small rectangle. So you see that if you put a text and a box inside the bigger rectangle and press auto layout, automatically that bigger rectangle will become a frame. That's another way to create an auto layout frame, by the way. What was I even going to say? Okay. Oh, by the way, a shortcut to creating auto layout is Shift A. So if you hold the things that you want to auto layout, like click this one, click this one, click this one, and then press Shift A, or it becomes an auto layout. I think Shift A is Shift A for everybody. It becomes an auto layout. So that's a shortcut because you're going to be using it a lot of times. So it's better you learn the shortcuts for it. So we've converted existing frame, we've converted rectangles, now creating auto layout from the scratch. We've actually literally just done that. So in creating, we've converted a rectangle to a frame, we've converted a frame to auto layout, we have converted a rectangle to auto layout. Now let's create auto layout from the scratch. I think we've literally just done that. So the way you create an auto layout from the scratch is that if I want these things to be in auto layout, I bring this text, bring this shape together, and then select it, and then press Shift A. Automatically, it comes into a frame. Now, this is now auto layout. Now, because it's too small, you may not notice, but I can do whatever I can do to a frame. I can fill it up, you see, but it's hugging the whole thing because there is no padding, right? So I'm going to put a vertical padding, let me say 10, or sorry, something you can see, 50, and then a horizontal padding, let's also say 50, right? So you can see that this is a legitimate frame. And already I can imagine that you guys can now see literally how buttons are created, because we just created something that looks like a button. So if, for instance, now I put a curve on this, maybe you'll say 20, automatically, let's say 50, it's really big. Automatically it starts looking like as if it's a button, you know, with a text and something that looks like an icon. Right, so this is basically how buttons are created. Some people will create their buttons using a square or a rectangle and then a text and then an icon. But that method is not sustainable. I would always implore anyone who wants to design a button to use a frame to design a button, and basically an auto layout to design a button. That way you can see that, you know, everything inside that button aligns, right? You're no longer trying to figure out if they are aligning together. They are automatically aligned because they are on auto layouts, right? So I can, put this in the center now, right? You can see that it moved just a little. So that's aligning it on auto layout, right? So we've created it from the scratch. Now, adding content to auto layout, I think we've done that, but let's demonstrate it again. So I can literally take this and drag it into here. Boom, it becomes part of that auto layout. In fact, I can even move it around. I can move it into the middle. You know, I can use my arrow keys also. I can use my arrow keys to move it around, you know, within the auto layout. So that's how to add things into auto layout. What else? Adding UI elements with auto layout frames and nesting auto layout frames within each other. So nesting basically is creating an auto layout within an auto layout, right? So let's say I want to say, okay, so in this thing now, right? If I go to this auto layout and say the space between them is, you can see it's 83. If I increase it to 200, the space between them becomes 200, right? But what if what if I want the space between this one to be smaller? Maybe because these two elements are more related, right? I want the space between this one to be smaller than the space between this one. You know, it can happen that, for instance, you have a situation where, let's say in this card, for instance, right? So if you look at this card now, you know, you have these elements. So these two elements are closer to each other. These ones are closer to each other, and these ones are closer to each other because they're related. So this time here is 1 hour, distance 5 kilometers, food today, like 90, comments 9, people, because they are related, right? So you can have a situation where you want things to be related to each other. And because of that, you want them to be closer together than other things that are inside the auto layout. So let's do that. So in order to do that, you need to create a nest. That means an auto layout within an auto layout. So in this case, we are going to select this one and this one. By selecting them, I mean holding shift. If I hold shift and click this and hold shift and click this, they are now nested, right? And then I will use shift A, hold this and hold shift and click this. Then I can now use shift A to put them in an auto layout. Now, you can see they are now existing in an auto layout that this one does not exist in. So this auto layout now, the distance is still 200, but I can now reduce it to 20, right? So if I reduce it to 20, this one and this one are now together, whereas this one is separate. So this is an auto layout within an auto layout. That's a nested auto layout. And you can literally create an infinite number of nested auto layouts that are nested within each other. In fact, if you look at the whole website or this whole thing we've created here, they are just a huge, array of nested auto layouts. They are auto layouts that are nested within each other. So this one, for instance, is in an auto layout on its own and is nested within this bigger auto layout. But this is a smaller auto layout, and within this smaller auto layout, you still have an auto layout because these guys are nested within each other, right? And then if you take this one, for instance, this is an auto layout, that is within the bigger auto layout, and within this auto layout, there is a nested auto layout, which is this one, and inside this one, there is also a nested auto layout, which is this one, because in this one we now have that, this one, these ones are together, right? So these are nested auto layouts. The same happens here. We have an auto layout that is nested within the bigger one and the bigger one, and then inside this you have that this one are nested together, also nested, because we want to create an environment where we can edit them, as a group. So that's what auto layout nesting means. So in order to make it more visual for you, so that you can understand that it's something, there is a nest there. I'm going to create like a border for this auto layout so that it is more visible. So let me add, because it's still 0 here. So let me make it 40. And let me make this one, let me make this one 40. Right, and then let me put a stroke so you can now see that that there is really a nest. So this is an auto layout, and then this is a bigger auto layout. So I've nested 2 auto layouts together. Right. So what else? what's the next one? Sorry, let me close some because my computer is behaving slow. So let me just close down some apps. I don't know if this is going to speed it up, but let's have auto. Okay. Right. So alignment and distribution, right? We've talked about alignment. Now let's talk about distribution. We've talked about alignment, right? Let me minimize this. We've talked about alignment. Now let's talk about distribution. So these are the alignments: align bottom, align right. Now let's talk about the distribution. Now, if I extend this like this, I think which one should come first now? Should I talk about resizing? Okay, now let's talk about distribution first. So if I resize this like this, you can notice that this thing, okay, you know what, let me first start with this, right? So the alignment here is left aligned and is in center. This is left top, this is left bottom, this is left center, okay? This is right center, right top, and right bottom, right? And this is center, center, top center, bottom center. These are alignments, yeah? Now, how about distribution, right? Now, the space, okay, first of all, let's also demonstrate layout, right? So this layout now is horizontal layout. There's also a vertical layout, right? Vertical layout. And in order to demonstrate this better, let me create an extra quantity of this so that you can understand how this thing works, right? Okay. And let me reduce this just a bit. Okay. So the layout here is vertical, right? So it's vertical, If I can also make it horizontal, right? Now, the reason it's popping out, in fact, there are many reasons why it's popping out. One of it is that this frame, I did not clip the content. If I clip content, you cannot see what goes out of it, right? But let me open it so you can see the content, right? Right. So you can see it's going out of the box, essentially, because it's forced on a horizontal layout, but then the content is bigger than the frame. So some of the contents are not fitting within the frame. In order for me to, if I want everything to be seen, I can wrap it. You see, if I do wrapping, that means that if it goes beyond where this frame is, like where this thing allows, it's going to wrap to the next, line. This wrapping is actually a new thing on Figma. It wasn't there last year. So even with wrapping, I can still do top, top right, top middle, top left, so right, and then the same thing, center, middle, right. I can do that even with the wrapping, right? You can see that the elements are wrapped and they are also behaving like we would expect them to behave. Now, okay, so, and you can see that the space between them is what? Is 200, yeah? So all the space between here, this one and this one is 200, between this one and this one is 200. Now, you can, as I said, you can reduce the space, right? So you can reduce it to, and as you are reducing it, you can see that, the wrapping is no longer having to wrap into the next line, depending on the space that is required. But then there is also another thing on another way of of distributing things, right? So this one is the spaces within it is fixed. I can also click here and instead of making it fixed, I can make it auto. So auto means that as long as you respect my border, so this border here is these borders, right? As long as you respect the margins, whatever space is in between, let it be. Now you can see I don't even know that what this number is written on auto. Of course, I can find out if I click one and use that this thing. I can find out now it's 7 points. You see how far it went just to give me, equal distributions. And this one will also be equally distributed. They are also equally distributed, but it's on auto. So it means that it's just going to fit within, that line. And I can also increase this and reduce this. But the point is that whatever happens, they are going to remain. They're even going to squash into each other as long as, the spaces between them is equal, right? So I can put that back on 350. I can do 40, whatever. There are a lot of things you can do, with auto layout, and it's very easy to control using this panel. Okay, so we've talked about adjusting spaces between elements. We've just demonstrated that now. We've used the packed space versus space between. So packed space is just what we just did. This is packed space. It's packed at 40, or we can use space between, which is auto. They used to call it space between, but now they call it auto. I think that language is no longer being used. Before they started this wrap thing, there used to be space between, or packed, but now it's just auto and number, that language has changed. Right. Then resizing options. So in resizing the bigger frame, as I said, you can resize it using here. If I choose a fixed size, so you can see the distance between them is always the same wherever they are on the screen. Like wherever they are aligned, the distance is always the same. Now I can choose to make this bigger box, this bigger frame, to make it hug the contents, right? So you can see it as resized in order for you to hug the content. Now, if you're asking why it doesn't hug all the way to the borders of these ones, that's because there is a border. I gave it a border of 83. I can increase that border to 100, to whatever I want really, but it's respecting that border. I can also do the same for the vertical size, hug content, right? And it has hugged the content. So you can do hug contents or whatever. Another way to resize, you can see this is for the frame that is outside. Now, what about the frame that is nested, right? So for the frame that is nested, there are also things you can do, right? So here, for instance, as you know, the border is 100. Border on top is what, I think 50 that we designed. Now, for this auto layer, this is also an auto layout that is nested within a bigger one. There are options, right? I can, for instance, the horizontal size, I can make it to fill up the container. So that means that it's taking all the space that the other ones are not taking. Of course, respecting all the spaces between and respecting all the, borders. Is going to fill up all the space. Or I can make it, hug content. So it's going to hug contents. So it's now hugging the contents of this one inside. So I can give it a fixed width. Now you say if I fill container, then you can see the space inside between these two things is 20. Of course, that can be increased to 40. Whatever I want, I can increase it to whatever I want really. And I can place it wherever I want, right? Or I can even, make it auto so that it takes they are all maximally separated. Of course, respecting the internal border, which is 40 here, and that internal border can also be changed to whatever I want. I can change it to 50 or whatever, So that is how auto layout behave within an auto layout or within a frame, that is existing in. But mostly it happens when the frame itself is in auto layout. Right. Okay, we've talked about this. We've talked about resizing options. That's fixed versus hot content versus field container. By the way, this thing we just demonstrated, it works in either way. So we've demonstrated it horizontally. It can also be demonstrated vertically. So we can field container vertically. You can see that. And by the way, this one can also be, the layout can also be changed to horizontal by vertical. By the way, we've just been using it as horizontal. It can also be changed to vertical. So there is really a whole lot you can do here. And in fact, don't forget that this is a frame. So as every other frame, you can fill it up, with colors. You can fill it up with colors. You can fill it up with picture. Choose an image. So just to remind you that is a frame. So because it's a frame, you can do whatever you want, whatever you can do with frames. You can change the border radius to whatever you want. So it's automatically starting to look like something. Right. So resizing. Okay. Yeah, resizing options and how they affect responsiveness. Okay, so we've done this, right? We've done this. Now let me bring out this thing here. Let me bring this thing out here. Right, because it's in a frame, you can see as I'm bringing it in, because this thing, the width of this thing is set to fill container. It's only going to fill, the container that exists, considering the other things that are also inside the frame. So as I'm bringing this one out also, this one is going to be reducing. So if I expand this, you can see how this picture is also expanding. If I reduce this picture, expand this is expanding. This is what you call responsiveness. So it's responsive because as I expand it, the content of its content is changing place because it's been expanded, right? So if you have a bigger screen, for instance, if this is how you're going to look in a smaller screen, in a bigger screen is going to look somewhat like this. Even a bigger screen is going to look somewhat like, so that means it's responsive, like it's considering the size of the screen, is responding to the size of the screen. As the size of the screen is changing, the content is also changing. So that is what responsiveness means, and this is how auto layout can influence responsiveness. Compare that to if this thing, for instance, was not in fill. Let's say it was in fixed, right? Fixed width, fixed height. So that means if I increase this one, the size of the thing inside doesn't change, right? Well, this can even be responsive even, but if for instance I put it here, for instance, and then I do this, you can see how the increase in screen does not really influence, the position of anything. Also, I can do something else like put this on wrapped, right? So if I put it on wrapped, that means that as I'm increasing it, reducing, the things are changing position, right? Things are changing position. Let's say if I take this one now and duplicate it, maybe have more than one here. Let's make this one hug the content. Let me delete these things. Just to explain some things. Right. So this, for instance, now, as I expand this, you can see even the orientation of things inside is also changed, right? So this is one way of making the screen responsive. Another way of doing that would be to make the content field container, right? So that as this one is changing, this one is also changing. It depends really on what you want, right? If you want the picture inside to become bigger as your screen becomes bigger, you can do that. But if you want also the elements to change position as your screen becomes bigger or changes, you can also do that. So you can see how we are able to achieve that using auto layout. Okay, so we've talked about padding. All right, give me a second, please. Yeah, where was I? All right, so padding, spacing. I think we've talked about padding and spacing and applying, and then responsive design. Now to the practical. So let's try to recreate this. So this is like part of a card. It is a card that is part of, you know, a whole app, you know, or a whole UI of an app. And you can see that the elements of the app is just basically this card repeating in different forms. So this is one form of it. Another form of it would be a form that does not contain a picture. So remove a picture, right? So this is one form of the card, and another form of the card is the card that has a picture. And by the way, you can see how the picture is displacing other things when it comes in automatically. So I don't need to do that manually. But all of this you are going to learn in later classes. For now, we're just going to learn how to design a card like this one. So let's get on with it. So in order to do this, the elements we need, you can see the elements we need. So we have this icon. We have icons here, and then texts, and then it's basically texts being arranged together with icons. So let's start with the, normally with things like this, you have to design it from the scratch, right? So let me put this side by side so that we can have a reference when we are designing. So that's the reference, right? Right, so I've actually arranged all the icons that I need. Now I'm just going to bring a text and start organizing it one by one. So here is 1 hour, and then together is this icon. So I put it side by side, select this one, and hold Shift, select this one, and Shift A makes it auto layout. So now both of them are in an auto layout, right? They're in an auto layout. So I'm going to pretty much do the same for all of these icons here, and I'm going to do it separately. I think a faster way for me to do that would just be to repeat, you know, to repeat this. I'm going to basically duplicate this. I don't know, this is alternate and drag. I'm using Option and drag on Mac, but alternate and drag on PC. And then Command D is going to duplicate. Command D duplicates, right? So what I'm going to do is to drag each of these icons in here. So I'll drag that one in here, and then I'm going to delete the one I don't like. So I will just do that for every of the icons here. So I don't have to I just feel it's easier than, you know, doing it all the way from the scratch. And then finally, right, so we have all the icons that we need, right? Now the next thing will be to arrange all of them in this particular manner, right? So here we have this 1 hour together with this 5 kilometer. Let me make this, let me write this. Then together with which other one? Together with the fork that says 1,300 hours today. Right, and I'm going to do the same for this. This is the like. That shows what, 90, and then this is the comments. That shows 9, and that is, I think, the number of people. That shows 25, sorry, /15 to 30. Right. So now is to arrange them. You can see this one is in a row, and this is another row that is beneath the first row. So you can, so it means that these ones have to be on an auto layout together. So let's do Shift, select all of them and then hold Shift A. That puts them on a row, right? So they are now on an auto layout row. And then let's do the same for these ones. Shift A, and then these ones are also on their own auto layout row. And then you can see that this one and this one are also in an auto layout together. So this here and this, Shift A puts them in an auto layout. Now, if you look here, you will see that the spaces between this is 21, right? 21. It means that if I expand this, it doesn't change. But I don't want that. I want a situation where if I expand this, I want things to also change inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this one, I'm going to make it to fill container. That means that whatever the size of the container is, that's going to be the size of this one, right? And then I'm also going to make this one also to fill container. Fill container. That means whatever the size of the container is, that's going to be the size. And then the elements inside, I'm going to make the elements not 21, but I'm going to put it on auto. Auto means that the distance between them is always the same. I don't exactly know if that's what I want yet, but let's just say maybe that's what I suspect I'm going to need. And then here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put the distance between them on auto. So what this means is that if I expand this, these ones are also expanding. But something else is happening. So this means that you can see that, so this one, they are on the same row. This one is also on the same, they're not on the same row. These ones are also not on the same row. And that is because the text elements of them are different, right? So what that means is that I'll have to find a way to make this length of these things the same, whether or not, you know, the text elements is whatever. So in order to do that, I will choose the one that has the longest. So this one now, the width of it is 77. So I'm going to say maybe choose 80, right, to be the width. And then I'm going to choose 80 to be the width of everything, you know, all the other boxes here. I think a shortcut for me to do that, instead of doing it one by one, is going to be, I've clicked on the bigger frame and then I'm going to press enter or return. Now it goes to the smaller frame. You can see this frame is the frame of the you know, different rows. And then I'm going to press enter again, and then it goes to this frame. So this frame is actually what I want to, you know, act on, and I want to do it for everyone. Now the width here is mixed. The height is the same, but the width is mixed. So I'm going to change it to 80 as discussed. Okay, so as you can see now, this one, okay, is now extending to the other one. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make this one, that's this particular one, to hog content. Let's see, hog content, hog content. No. I'm just going to expand this other one. I'm just going to expand this other one, right? So now if you see, this is 80, this is 80, this is 80. And because they are all equal now, you know, they are now going to align, if you understand the maths. But then I want the space between this top row and the bottom row to be smaller. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to, the space now is at 43. I'm going to reduce it to 4. Right, so it's at 4. But there is a line here. A way I can put that line is by adding a stroke to the bottom of to this particular frame. But as you can see, the stroke doesn't go all around, it's only at the bottom. So I'm going to replicate that here by choosing which particular place I want the stroke to be. Now it's at the bottom and it's very, very thin. I guess maybe like 0.4. So I'm going to use a 0.4 there. It's still very close to this one. So I guess I'm going to increase. Okay, so this vertical padding is at 0. I'm going to increase the vertical padding for the 2. Increase it to 4. Right. So that's closer to the truth now. Maybe the colors are still not close, but at least the design overall is kind of close. This one, maybe maybe I just want to have a bottom, but not the top. So let's see. I kind of want the same designs for the 2 frames to be the same. So I'm going to put the top, that's the top border. I'm going to put the top border at 0 and the bottom border is going to be at 4. I think I prefer it that way to kind of economize space. So we're kind of getting there. So you see how we've used like a nested auto layout to come up with something that is complex and really simple at the same time. So this one now, the width of this is 266. So if I want to kind of copy it perfectly, I'm going to also make the same width to be 266 here. So 266. So now it's now closer to the same thing. Right, so we've done that for the numbers at the bottom. So what we need to add next is this picture, right? So we have this picture, or I don't have this particular picture, but in order to do that, we'll take a frame, put a frame, and I guess the width is going to be at 266. and the height is what, 172. And it has a border radius of 9.6. I'm going to say 10. Right, and then we're going to make it a picture using a fill. So we can use this picture. And then we're going to put it on auto layout together with this, right? So Shift A, put it on auto layout, and the space between them, I'm going to make it 4. Right, so that has come together. So now it's a big, frame. In order for this to be responsive, I'm going to make it such that this frame, the size is not fixed, but the size is to fill container, so that if this container increases in size, this is also going to increase in size. And I'm going to do the same for this one to also fill container, so that if this container increases in size, the size of this will also increase. You can see now is more responsive. Next, we have this text box here. So we create the text. Okay, let me just copy this text. Right. So you can see, and then in order to make it maintain the same width, the width here is what, 658. What's the width here? The width here is 266. Okay, this is 271. Let's make this 266. And then the width of this one is also going to be you know what, I think I'll prefer putting this in a frame. So I'll just use Shift A to put the text in a frame, and then make that frame. And then the text itself, I'm going to make the text to fill container. Right, and then this container, I'm going to give it a horizontal padding of 0, because I really don't want the padding. And this one also, I'll make it 0, so it's easier for me to control. And then this itself, I'm going to make it the same as this one, which is 266. Okay. So now we are going to add this thing to this frame. I'm not going to create an extra auto layout, because this auto layout between this one and this one is enough, and the space between the picture and this is going to be the same as the space between the picture and the text. So I'm just going to drag this text into this frame. Sorry. I'm going to drag the text into this frame, and then I'm going to use up arrow to put it on the top. That's just what I'm going to do. So this one is also hug, so it's hug content, so it stretches when you put new things inside. Sorry, does anyone have any questions?
Please, I wanted to ask, where did you get your icons from?
Okay, we'll talk about, okay, so these icons are icons I got from a particular icon library. But if you want to get icons, so there is this plugin, I think it's called Iconify or something. Yeah, that is it. You can get free icons from there. So you can see this Iconify. So here I can, sorry. Give me a second. So this doesn't even change. Okay, so I can Okay, here is Twitter. So I can search icon, and then it gives me like a whole lot of different search icons. I can just pick one that I want, and then I can import it. You see, it has imported. So I can that's how I can use to populate my icon library. But I prefer to download icon libraries. Some are paid, some are free. But what it does is that it kind of gives me like a more standard design. So for instance, if you look at this icon, like it's visually similar. They are visually similar. You can know that they come from the same icon library. But when you're doing it like this, you will not get like similar icons. You can also design your own icons, even though that is very stressful. But I think we will cover that going forward. Basically, how to design icons. I think Victor is going to teach you about that. But yeah, you can get icons from Iconify, or you can download from icon libraries. So this is search. Okay, this is heart. Now let's look for a heart icon. See this icon now. You can get it from here as well. So you can get it from here. Sorry, I think okay, let me delete that. It's too big. And the good thing is that when you download icons from Iconify, they are, when you import icons from Iconify document colors, they are typically already named. Where do you go? Okay, that's it. Right, that's Iconify. So this one is you can see is named already, like soul, heart, outline, and all of that. This one is also named search vector. But you can also name it yourself so that you don't get confused. But you can see that these two icons now, they are not really similar, right? That's why it makes sense to go from an icon library. But they are different. If you go to any plugin, you can search for other icons anyway. Let's see, there was another one by Microsoft. Icons Microsoft. I hope it's still there. Yeah, the content reel, right? Content reel can also give you icons. So let's run the content reel, right? So icons and content reel. And the thing about these icons, so these Fluent icons, for instance, it's 6,000 something. You can have small, medium, and large icons, and you can download the whole library. So this content tree, for instance, but of course it's generic. So this one looks alike. They look pretty much the same. So you can download this whole, you can download this whole library. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. So there are a lot here actually. I think this might actually be where I got my own icons. Actually, this content reel might actually be. I'm not sure, but they look so similar to the one I'm using. I think there is a way to download the whole pack. I can't, but you figure it out, Sha. Yeah. Okay, so moving forward. Okay, so we're almost there. So here now, we have a text, another text. Let me just pick one of these texts so that I don't have to type anything new. Option, drag, that duplicates it. So let's say seafood okra. this one is, I think, semi-medium or something, regular, bold, semi-bold, I guess. And the size, 9.6. So is that this one? 13. So this one is 13. I guess now I have to make this 9.6 too. Okay, same size. Now, the one above it is, now if you notice, this name is on the same line as this. There is an icon here. There is a tray, something icon here. So this name is on the same horizontal as it. And this one is on a different horizontal altogether. So we're going to try to replicate that. So this name is, I think, should be, okay, 11, but then can make it 12, but then okay. Now the icon, I think I have the icon somewhere. That's it. So that's the icon. So this icon and this name will go on the same line. And the size, of course, it will still be the same size as these other ones. That's what, 226. And then we're going to make them, okay, let me do that first. Fixed width, 226. Now, if you notice, the box is now bigger than the contents, because we're going to put it in the middle, align it to the middle. And then let me bring out this one first. And then this one and this one, because it's the same frame, right? So we're just going to put it in the frame. We're going to put it in this frame. And then we're going to take it to the top. And then we're going to make it to fill container. And then, because the elements are maximally displaced, we're going to go to auto. So the elements are also maximally displaced here. And the same, we're going to go for this. We're going to put this on an auto layout. We're going to make the border 0, so it's easier to control. This one also going to make it 0, so it's easier to control. But then we're going to put it in this, and then we're going to make the size to fill container. So if you notice, it automatically goes to the middle because it's aligned to the middle, but we're going to drag it to the right. Now, you can see there is a space here that is not exactly the same all around. So because of that space, if we need to control that space, we can put this and this in an auto layout that's nest it within, and then we can control the space however we like. Can make the space maybe 10 or something, and the space increases. And then the space between these two is also maybe different. I'm not sure, or should we just put this one inside this frame? So that they're all, the same separated. I think that is something you have to figure out anyway. And then this one, the spaces between these two, if they are different, basically you can now choose to, the point is that you can choose to put things in different places depending on the spaces you want between them, right? If you think that the spaces is the same, you put it in an auto layout that is going to make their spaces the same. If it's different, you do the same. And then, so now we have the right side of this card. Now we're going to do the left side. So the left side has a picture, and this what do you call this rating card, right? So the picture is like let's say 40 by 40. So I can take this picture now, bring it here, change the size to 40 by 40. As you can see, it's constrained, the proportional are constrained. So when I change this one to 40, this one will automatically change to 40. Then I'm going to get that star rating thing. Then I'm going to get the text, and then I'm going to put it together, y 5.0, and then I'm going to color it the same as this, and then I'll put them in an auto layout. Align to the center, and then these two I'll also put on an auto layout. They've already aligned. I'm going to make the space 10. Yeah, 10 looks good enough. And then these two, I'll now put these two in an auto layout and then determine what space should be between them. By looking at this, I think the space may be like around 4 or so. Or maybe more. What was the space? Space here. Okay, it's I can't tell because okay, let's do this. Nine 9.610. Well, yeah, it's like almost 10 still. Okay, but then okay. This I'm going to is like this one is bigger than the picture. It doesn't have to be. So I'm going to make this not to hog, but to fill container. This is the container. I'm going to make this to hot content. I'm going to make this to fill container. Okay, because I made this to be 9, let me just put it at auto. And then I can make it to fill the container. Right, makes sense now. So this one all together. I think we've pretty much achieved it. Of course, the now this big frame will now have to create borders for the big frame. I think the borders should be about okay, 15, let's say 16, 16 on the side, and 10 at the bottom, 10 at top, like vertically 10. So yeah, we've created our card and we can fill it. Now let's test this card for responsiveness. No, it's not responsive. So what we're going to do is inside we are going to make it to fill. Let's see. Instead of making it 4, we're going to make it auto. What that means is if we drag this now, you know, this will also drag with it. But that's not enough. I think I want this to also increase, right? So this, I want it to fill container. And then this, I want it to not be auto, but to be not 4 is okay. Oh, sorry, 10. It should be 10, not 4. Is okay, right? So that when I drag this, expand it, this one also expand, but this text is not expanding. So in this text, I'm going to make it to fill container. This one is filling, this one is filling. So this one, so as I'm dragging it now, you can see everything is changing shape. So that's how I want it. So yeah, we have recreated this this card. Does anyone have questions? Anyone has questions? You can just unmute your mic and ask. Right, because one of your assignments is going to be to recreate a card. Preferably, I would ask you to create a card, maybe an Instagram card or a Facebook card. If you look at any website that mostly social media, they are typically made up of cards, right? So Twitter is made up of cards that look pretty much like this. Instagram is made up of cards as well. Facebook is also made up of cards. So I'm going to ask you to find a social media of your own choice and we create a card on social, like a social media card. Let me give you an instance. So let me import a Facebook card to show you what I mean. Oh. Okay, so this is what a Facebook UI card looks like. You can see, right? Okay, this is not very clear, but the idea is that on Facebook, you know, you have this a UI. This is what a Facebook UI card looks like. So Facebook is literally these cards repeating a million times, right? So it is a different picture, is a different profile picture, is a different name, but the card is always the same, right? The like button, the comment section, the share, and then this one, and then this extra, you know, icons and whatnot. So that's essentially what all social media looks like. Twitter also has its own cards. Instagram has its own cards. Snapchat also has cards. So whether their websites actually, you know, a lot of things are just made up of cards stacked up, you know, on each other. So your assignments will be, although I will still send it in more formally, you know, finding a UI card for social media UI card, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, and then recreating such a card. Right. If you have any questions now, will be the best time to ask. If not,
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Thank you for the class.
all right.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I wanted to ask something. I didn't really get it. When you drag the those frames, like the names, and then you not carry them up. I want to know how you carry them up when you put them into the frame. I didn't really get that part very well.
How I carried it, how I dragged
Like,
it
up, yes. You know, initially when you brought it into the auto layout, that frame, it was under. Then you now like carry it up. Yes.
you can use your arrow button. You can drag it using your mouse like this.
Okay.
Okay, so I see I've dragged this one, or you can use your arrow button and press down or up wherever you want it to go. Right. And if, okay, another thing you should take note, if you are dragging, okay, let me show you something, because otherwise you might try to do it and you'll be confused. So you see this card, this frame now. If this frame was bigger,
Okay.
and I'm trying to drag it into here,
Yes.
I will never be able to do that, right? I can drag it into this one, maybe, but I will never be able to drag it into this one, because you cannot drag a bigger frame into a smaller frame.
Okay.
But if you want to drag it, maybe what you want to do is to reduce the size. Then when you drag it in, you can see it's not easy to, it comes in. You can now, make it to feel
container.
Exactly.
Oh,
But if the frame you're trying to drag in is bigger than the place you're dragging it into, it's not going to go in.
Okay.
So just take note of that, because it might disturb you going forward.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Okay, then let's call it a day. Thank you very much.
Sorry, please, last week we treated layout. I didn't remember us being given assignments, and then I noticed someone posting
Okay, I think I was even going to post that assignment. Because I wasn't the one that took the class, I didn't follow up on a lot of things I should have followed up on. But let me just go there now. So this is the class, yeah. Can you guys see it?
yes.
Right. You can see it typically ends in an assignment. So this was the assignment, right? So the assignment was sorry, my computer is slow for some reason. The assignment was for you to create, so design a simple frame that tells a story in 3 segments using simple shapes as shown here. The frame would also include a header, a navigation bar, and a footer. All the layout principles we have learned in the lesson, use all the layout principles we have learned in the lesson to make your design captivating to the viewer. Ensure you use grid lines to organize your work. Ensure your design is responsive by applying constraints to the elements. Export your frame to the WhatsApp group. That's what you saw. And then critique 2 designs submitted by your peers. Your critiques should tell us what layout principles they have successfully applied in their designs and what principles they have failed to apply. I'm going to send this to the group. I just couldn't do it last week because I was a bit tied up. So I'm going to send that to the group now. And then I will also, between now and tomorrow, I'm going to send you what your assignment is going to be for this week.
Okay.
Both
Mr.
for
Brian, I also noticed last week, you did not send this last week's class like a document. It was just the video that we had.
Okay, you didn't have this. Okay, give me a second. That's the class you took. What was it again? I think on brainstorming.
Competitive audits.
Competitive audits. Okay, I'm going to forward that to you too. I'm going to forward that. I just didn't take it, so like I forgot to follow up. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Any other questions? All right then. Let's call it a day. Have a nice weekend.
You too. Bye.